Good afternoon, it's Lee Cassidy from Tactile Technology, and we've got our regular Verkada Friday. And instead of me just blinding you with science and talking about things I have no knowledge of whatsoever around technology, we've actually got Luke Smith along. So, hi Luke, how are you?
Hey, Lee, I'm good, thank you. I'm excited. This is my first time on kind of one of these LinkedIn live streams, so it's going to be quite interesting. So I'm looking forward
And
to it.
it is live. And so I was showing people with a second camera the other day that it is definitely live. This is just OBS making it
Yep,
look pretty with some images to put the camera feeds into, but it's not recorded in the slightest.
it's definitely live. As you can probably tell by the lovely overcast weather
Oh,
here in
yeah,
London from the
definitely,
window.
definitely. Tell us a little bit about yourself then. Are you? I know you're in London now. Are you from that area, or have you migrated there?
Yeah, so I've actually moved around a fair amount through my career. I had to obviously when you get some forms across where I asked you for your last 3 years of address history, I actually have a list saved of the 9 different places that I've lived in the past 3 years. So I've moved around quite a large amount. So before Verkada, I kind of started my career journey at Cisco. So I was part of the solution validation services team there, which is basically taking customer networks and testing them in the lab environment that we had over in the Reading office. And then following on from that, I did work as a Premier Field Engineer at Microsoft. Now, Premier Field Engineer is just a glorified title for a technical consultant. But that was a very field-based role. So I'll be going to enterprise customers and kind of discussing their identity strategy and kind of what their approach was on that side of things, and kind of really talking around the Azure AD space around that. And then I kind of took another shift to join Verkada and start joining kind of the IoT space, which is really interesting when you start looking at some of the cool things that we're doing with analytics and things like that. So definitely quite an interesting career journey so far. I've definitely seen a lot of both the UK and Europe through that time as well. But it means that it's kept me on my toes, certainly.
I've had a note to say I've misspelt Verkada. Is it Verkada? It's not.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
the
I've
good.
missed an R. It should be
Ah,
Karda, shouldn't it? Verkada. So yeah, I've had somebody put a
yes.
comment to say you've got Verkada spelt wrong. So I do
Ah,
apologise. You are
keen eye.
Verkada today rather than Verkada, but I'm sure most people
I'll
will
have
know.
to. I'll have to get the t-shirts
Yeah,
rebranded.
yeah. My typo. So I do apologise. So mainly a network career then prior to this then with Cisco, and also there's a relationship, isn't there, between Verkada and Cisco theoretically, because the
Mhm.
Verkada guys were the original Meraki guys that were actually consumed by Cisco a number of years ago.
That's exactly correct. Yeah. So one of the things is when I was looking at Verkada and things, I already saw that it was headed up by Hans Robertson, and I was like instantly recognized that name. And certainly when I was interviewing for the role as well, I got told that I'll be kind of sitting down with Hans to kind of go through it, and my stomach kind of dropped at that point. I was like, wow, that's a lot of pressure, but still quite exciting to be able to sit down and talk to him and just kind of see what his vision was for the company, kind of see where things were going. And it was one of the key reasons why I decided to join in the end, just around kind of where he sees the industry as it is now and kind of where we're going to be taking things going forward as well. So that was really interesting, but definitely a very nerve-wracking experience as part of it.
Yeah, and so I'm we're very impressed with Verkada and the way that they've approached things, and it's very similar to how they had originally approached the Wi-Fi game when they were Cisco, when they were Meraki, sorry, coming out because it was an MIT project originally, wasn't it? And out of Massachusetts technology, and they went down the route of if we were going to invent Wi-Fi again, how would we do it without having things like controllers and all those gubbins in? And then they've done the same thing from a security camera perspective. Let's reinvent how you would do it without things like network recording devices, lots of bits of infrastructure that are not required, just to actually get that camera feed and also store it locally on the camera as well, which is quite an important thing, isn't it? So a lot of good things
Yeah,
there.
definitely.
But what we were going to talk about today was something I can't demonstrate, Norm, because I can show people cameras and talk about that, but I can't show them the access control system because I'm not trustworthy. Like many of your salespeople, you said as well, they're not allowed to actually have access to the Verkada access control systems as well.
Yeah, exactly. So we obviously with access control, we can't give away all kind of the bells and whistles to everyone because people will start locking people into rooms or locking people out of rooms, whatever they kind of fancy doing. So we certainly have it tightly controlled in terms of who can access it. But certainly it's one of those very sins, as you were mentioning on the camera side, trying to strip away a lot of the complexities that we do see around that, and now bringing that into more of the physical security space with access control as well. So it's very exciting. Certainly when I joined, it was just the camera space, and then we kind of looked at around the access control side of things, and it's been very interesting. Kind of looking at how we're approaching things differently on that side. And one of my favorite things is how much potential we have now that we have both of them so tightly integrated too. There's a lot of cool things that we have on the camera side that can really apply for different access control scenarios as well.
Yeah, I'm going to say I think it's really good how you've got the integration between the two as well, so that if you want to check a particular person's access to a particular door, when you go, you can actually see a clip either of them on the side when they're being refused access, when they're denied, or then the other side if they're being given access, and the camera knows which side, or the access control system knows which side each camera is, so it gives you the appropriate clip depending on deny or access given as well.
Yeah, exactly. That's completely correct. And it's one of the nice things is that how easy it is to get to that point as well. There's not a huge amount of complex configuration that you need to worry about. I always say when I kind of cover our access control system, it sounds like an exaggeration, but it is actually correct, is that it is 3 clicks to associate a camera with the actual door that you're worrying about, whether it's an inside camera or an outside camera relative to the position on the door. And it is just 3 clicks to get that integration set up, and then you're pretty much good to go. So it's certainly very simple from that side of things as well.
So I was on a call with Brendan, not Brendan, not Brendan, name now. There's Brendan Cherry, and who's the other guy?
Brandon Cresser?
Yeah,
it's a very similar name.
And we were on a call this morning, and we were talking about some of the differences. And he was saying that their closest competitor, their user manual, so to how to set it up and use it, is 1,600 pages, whereas the Verkada one's about 3. So that shows a big difference, doesn't it?
Yeah, we keep things as simple as possible. And very often when you think about access control systems, the people that generally interact with them as well aren't always very technical. So I look at some of the interfaces for the access control systems that are out there currently, and they scare me as a technical person. I would kind of hate to figure out what is happening with some of them.
Yeah.
So it's always a nice, it's a good breath of fresh air when you've got a very intuitive interface to take something that has been notoriously quite a complex thing to kind of set up and configure, really.
You were going to show a couple of slides with you to kick this off?
Yeah, of course. So let me pull up my screen so you can kind of see what that looks like, and then we can kind of jump through what that is. But the one I kind of want to start with is how we effectively do things slightly differently from what we see out there on the market now. So this slide is just kind of highlight where we kind of went from ourselves. So this picture on the left here is our HQ location. So that is when we moved into our office, what we inherited. And that's very much the case. You go to a new place, there's probably already an access control system there. And then you either deal with what's there or you think about perhaps replacing it. This PC is actually, as it looks, physically bolted onto the wall there. And we were looking at different access control vendors and things like that. And sometimes they would send you a PC with the PS2 port still on the back, for the old rollable mice and things, which I'm not the oldest of people, but I haven't seen one of those in a very long time, which is quite surprising when they kind of send that across. And equally, when it comes to things like scalability and multi-site deployments, it becomes a lot more complex setting up your access control system to allow that sort of setup. And sometimes we would be speaking to a lot of customers where they'll have a large amount of sites, but they would just have a completely disparate access control system for each of them. So there was kind of no continuity when they would go between them. And equally, there's normally a lot of on-prem infrastructure that you need to worry about with these systems as well. You have the client software that's running on this server here, plus sometimes a database in the back end, which is going to be all of your access control related configurations. And that just adds a lot of layers of complexity, a lot of different things to manage. And very often people get a little bit scared about changing them too, because they might upgrade one part and then the next part might break compatibility with other parts of the system. So they kind of keep them or don't update them as much as they should. So kind of how we adjust that slightly differently is very similar to what we do with our cameras, is to get rid of all of that infrastructure. So for access control, the bare minimum that you need is a card reader and the actual door controller itself. So that's all you need to get started with the Verkada access control. Everything else is completely cloud-based, so there's no more servers that you need to worry about. There's no more databases that you need to maintain. And one of the real benefits with that is that when you've got multiple sites, all you need to do is plug in that door controller and it's ready to be configured. And all of the users, all of the permissions can now be applied to that site as well, without any of that complex network setup that needs to come into place in order to do that as well. And what's nice is that we've also got our Verkada Pass app. So you have the flexibility to effectively use your mobile device to start getting into doors, so that you don't always have to rely on a physical smart card or something that you have to physically take around with you. There's one thing that people always do, and that is look after their mobile phone. Well, some people always seem to have a cracked mobile phone, but for most people, will look after their mobile phone more than kind of a physical access credential. The amount that I used to lose when I was around was uncanny. So it's very nice to have that flexibility to start using things like your mobile device to get access to these locations as well.
Okay, I've just
But in
realised I
terms,
didn't spell Verkada wrong. What it was is the actual title for the actual stream is wrong.
oh,
So
gotcha.
rushing around, I didn't get round to changing the titles before we kicked off. So we look like we're Tactile Tech Thursday at the moment, yesterday. So,
Oh,
but I don't
gotcha.
think that'll be too much of an issue.
We can time travel if need be back to Thursday, perhaps. But it's nearly the weekend, so perhaps that's not the best thing. So,
Yeah, I'm going to say I sometimes could do with a time turner as they had on Harry Potter to give you
oh,
more
that would be good.
chances
Yeah,
to do the same day, or hours in that same day.
that's true. If I had a superpower, time travel would definitely be up on the list. Maybe in conjunction with flying or something like
Yeah,
that.
sounds good.
Perfect. So just to quickly cover the actual hardware that we're providing as well. So obviously the main brains of all of this is our door controller. So this is our 4-door controller, which is great. It's got all of the necessary things that you might need to have from a door controller perspective. Now, I won't spend too much time on that because it's very interesting, but not as cool as kind of the software side. So I'll jump across to the actual portal itself. And the first thing you'll notice is that we've got this live view. And the first thing you'll be greeted with is the ability to see how we have that tight integration with our cameras. So you'll notice at 6:50 a.m. we have some very dedicated employees over in our HQ in San Mateo coming in that early. Absolutely awesome. But you can see this is updating in real time. So all of these access events that are coming through, I can see that effectively happening. I've got that camera integration to kind of see what's happening with that as well. And what's nice is that I can easily see all of these and click back through them as well to kind of see what that looks like. So we can see Brett coming in here, for example, badging in. I can easily see what's happening. And I also can come back and quite intuitively go back through the day as well, just to see where people are. If there was someone coming in at 6:50, let's have a look at Harry coming in, for example. Very easy to come in and click on that. And we can also filter this as well. So if I wanted to do an investigation where, let's say Ryan was accused of doing something, I could type someone's name in, and now I'm isolating all of these events just to this particular person. So I can see he came up on the stairwell and then he left out of the office door there, and I can click through all of these and have that tight integration with all the cameras too. But if we jump down to doors, on a per door basis, what we've got is, let's pick our front door, probably our most interesting door in terms of the amount of activity. So for every door, you'll notice at the top, we've got that integration again, but now we've got 2 cameras associated with this door. So coming back to what we were talking about at the start with the in and out scenario, very beneficial to see based on this where that camera's positioned. You've got pretty much both sides of these doors, so you can get a real good overview of that every single access event. You'll also notice how intuitive it looks in terms of the actual access events. So gone are the days of needing to look through a long list of just text-based access coming into the building. We've now got this kind of card view. And with each of these card views, I can bring my mouse back and forth and play back all of those access events too. So very nice to be able to see what's happening. And clicking through onto that as well is going to pull up a multi-camera playback view so that I can easily see this access event being played back on both sides of those doors as well. So we can see him coming in, we can see the badge coming there, and I can see him coming through as well. So very cool. And it's one of the benefits of having those cameras so tightly integrated is that you get a lot of this functionality, a lot of these features within that. So you can easily see what's effectively happening. Now, one of my favorite ones to look at is certainly being a little bit more intelligent with this as well. So if there's any access rejected events or if there's any door held open events, obviously very important if someone's keeping doors open or propping that open with a badge or anything like that. So we have a lot of different events. Now, this is our front door. So we've got our receptionist who's very good at making sure that people close the door again. But we have that ability to filter based on lots of different events type as needed. So a lot of cool things within there.
And the door held
Now,
open is because it's not, after it's been open, it's not been closed within a specific time frame then.
exactly. And that's a configurable time frame too. So you can say that if this door is open for more than 60 seconds, then generate that door held open event. So perfect for kind of use cases, an IT room where you've got expensive equipment or, anywhere that is a high value area. it's very nice to have that visibility onto effectively what's happening. And then jumping across two doors to kind of promise what I mentioned around it being 3 clicks to associate a camera with the door, I'm going to go to my favorite room, is the snack room.
Ah,
This is where we store all of our snacks, these massive boxes of all the various things that we have available in our kitchen. But if I come across to info on the right side here, this is where I could configure the cameras for it. You notice I've got one camera configured at the moment with the inside location set. Now, that was one click to click on add cameras. I then need to click on the blue tick in order to show which camera I want to be associated with that. So if I wanted to do 2, now it's a live environment, so I won't actually click confirm, but confirm would be the kind of the second click or the third click if you're encountering that kind of blue tick. But as I mentioned, that was 3 clicks to associate the camera with the door. And that is all of the configuration that's effectively needed for all of that. So very, very easy to do that integration. It's very nice to have it seamlessly in there as well. And it kind of feeds in quite nicely with a lot of the cool analytics that we have on the camera side as well around that. But very, very, very easy
so what's the big red lock on the right-hand side we can see on the screen?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So we have a lot of flexibility when it comes to unlocking doors. So if you've got someone who might be remote or kind of central security centers or anything like that, this red padlock will allow me to remotely unlock that door if I have the necessary permissions to do so. So
If
perhaps you're sitting in reception and a
somebody
delivery
desperate for
driver
snacks
comes.
or something. Yeah.
Exactly. If someone really needed some Powerade or Gatorade or some other equally unhealthy thing, we can remotely unlock that door as needed to kind of get into that room as required. So very flexible. And as I kind of mentioned, you'll notice on each of these access events, if it's a door open one, of course, it's going to have the picture of the door. But you'll notice that's a keycard icon. If someone was doing a web-based unlock, that would be a picture of a monitor. And if it was a web-based or a mobile unlock, that would be a picture of a mobile phone. And kind of coming back to touching on that mobile app, we have the Verkada Pass app, which allows you to start unlocking the door with just your phone as well. So when people either pull up with their car, they might use the mobile app in order to do that, press the button on the outside and badge in. But it just gives you a lot of flexibility when it comes to that as well.
What about
But
temporary access for people like contractors?
yeah, no, it's a good question. So under every user, what we have the flexibility to do is, let's pick Shelly as an example. We have these start and end date columns. So what we have here is that we can set a start date and an end date, so that if someone's only there for 2 weeks, if someone's there for an hour or 2 hours, you can just come in and set those kind of parameters for when you want that permission to effectively revert itself, going back to normal. So you don't even have to worry about revoking their access afterwards. And what's also quite nice when we're talking about users is we do have that SCIM integration too with identity providers like Azure AD. So being able to automatically pull your users in so that, again, you don't need to worry about provisioning users or deprovisioning them. It's all going to be done automatically as part of that SCIM integration. So a lot of flexibility when it comes to users.
Okay, sounds really good. So, yeah, we talked about complexity of other solutions, and is there any other solution that has that simple integration of cameras, or is that normally quite difficult as well with other solutions?
Yeah, so it's always been a very notoriously difficult thing to effectively achieve in the same way. One of the benefits, of course, we have is that we develop our cameras, we develop our access control, so we can have that integration to the point where you just need to click 3 buttons. You don't have to do anything beyond that. And again, coming back to kind of what's already out there was typically a lot of complexity around doing that traditionally. And certainly we've got a lot of flexibility and different use cases we can start to leverage as well as we have them so tightly integrated. Things like the analytics on the cameras, being able to use that for different scenarios. So there's a lot of interesting use cases and a lot of different scenarios that we're thinking about how we can enhance on them. But certainly the great starting point and one of the beneficial things about the whole platform is, one, that simplicity, and 2 is having that seamless integration between them. So you aren't just relying on an access event, you can now start correlating that with visual footage as well.
Okay, well that was great. So thanks ever so much for that, Luke. That's given us a really good picture into how it all fits together and some of the real advantages, especially that simplicity. Because I'm into simplicity. I think the more simple things are, the easier they to deploy and easier they are to operate. And I think that works in any form of technology as well, whether that's an access control system or an operational computing environment in a data center. simpler the better. Yeah, it makes it easier for people to be able to use them, and it's also simpler from different perspectives as well, because you've got people implementing it and configuring it. You've got people that have to have daily use of it, maybe someone on a reception, and I believe using the Access app, you could actually set up, say, a receptionist with the ability to open the front door as they see people walk up, or people call them, and that way, rather than having to always give everybody cards and things. So there's a bit of
Yep.
flexibility in the way you can do this as well.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's one of the nice things about that app is that you don't have to, like you said, give guests or temporary people a physical card. Because again, once you might never see that card again, and as well, it means that they don't have to physically get anything. They could be pre-booked in. They just need to download that app, and then they have all the permissions they need for when they arrive on site straight away.
Yeah, which would make things a lot easier for people, wouldn't it? So thanks ever so much
100%.
again. We've hit our 20 minutes, which is my maximum. I try and keep it to, because I don't want to bore people
Awesome.
stupid. But not that this was at all boring. I think it was very interesting. Like I say, it's we can't show the access control system because we don't have access to any systems to show it. So it's really good, for you to come on and show us that. And also it was great to learn a little bit more about yourself and your background, and that integration with Cisco and Meraki at certain stages in your career as well.
Excellent. No, thank you for having me. It's been
And
wonderful.
any plans for the weekend, as it's a bank holiday? Are you travelling anywhere? Going to get stuck in traffic
I
jams?
I am actually, yeah. So I've got next week off, which I'm looking forward to. Maximize the use of the week. So I'm going to fly away to Italy tomorrow, which will be nice. So looking forward to that.
So have you got any restrictions coming? Uh,
Not at the moment. It's one of the few places that has got open restrictions, which is good. So I decided to pick that one as a place to go. And then when I come back, I'll get a COVID test as part of our policy to make sure that I'm obviously clear before coming back in the
Yeah,
office
it
or anything
seems
like that.
quite fluid at the moment, which countries you need to isolate when
It
you
does,
return
yeah.
or not, and it changes by the minute, it seems. So yeah,
It definitely does.
yeah. All right. Well, thanks ever so much, and hopefully get you back soon to talk about some other Verkada technology.
Yeah, happy to. Thank you so
Thanks a
much.
lot.
Have a good one.